Hello everybody, I'm Giuseppe Basile, also known as the FibStalker. Welcome to this weekend video review. This is part 1. Today is May the 6th, 2018, and this video is part of the FibStalker Canadian Trading Service. As usual, I ask you to pause the video and read and accept the disclaimer here if you have not done that yet. Thanks for doing that, and let's dive into the market. This week I want to start from a number of markets that have been requested to review here. So in this part 1 I will review only 6 markets, and these are the markets that we will be watching this week. So the pound versus Japanese yen, this market has had a move lower here. When you look at the monthly, very strong. Then there was this weak recovery here, and this market might be trading an extension, so we don't know that. Okay, so we need to keep that into our mind as well. Now on the long side of things, we had a sequence of measured move here which found participation here. The opposing 50% has never traded, but as I mentioned, this market might be trading extensions here. Okay, so the market traded this measured move, went into that first target and traded again in 2008, and recently here in April traded this level here. So this level is still active, it's there, and it could be retested. It could be retested successfully as well, but we also have to look at the downside here. The shorts are in control, and this market could retest the 50%, which is going to be a second test, and find participation. There are 2 levels that we can watch in this market. The first one is the continuation of a basket setup, which actually failed, but then pushed price lower into second target and well below the second target. So an obvious level is the lows to lows here. If this comes into play, it could actually push this price lower into the 146.12. Okay, so that's what we could be looking at this week in this market. Next is the Euro Australian dollar technical market. The euro, we've seen the euro moving lower, and I posted that chart in the room, and in the meantime this market moved. So let's remove all these lines here, and this is just the daily. Okay, but this market has basically tested the top of the range, and most importantly has already traded short, has failed the opposing measure move here, and before doing that it has traded the 50% short into the first target. Now I mentioned this market in the room as well. I published the chart in the meantime. After doing that, this market came to trade a 50% short, and this is a valid entry that could actually push this price lower into a retest of that 50% long. Okay, so if this market is retested during if this level 159.06 159 area is retested during the European session, this is a short into 158 first and then 157.70, helping price lower. All right, so as you can see here, the short came into play here. Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar, this market has been moving lower here, as we had indicated, thanks to the fact that the sequence of measured move higher, all this sequence here, had failed. This market has traded the 50% short at 110.65 and traded the first and second target, and it's now and the next special move short has failed here. Okay, so there are 2 possibilities for this market. I think it's still a long here. There's no indication of a reversal. There is the 50% here, the full 50% retrace, and there is another retrace here that has not been tested yet, and that could actually find participation to 107.78. all right, next is the Canadian dollar, Japanese yen. So this market has moved As you remember, this market has moved lower after testing twice the 50% short. The previous 50% long that never was capable of bringing price into the first target, which means that on the larger time frame shorts are in control here, came into play, was capable of being defended here and pushed price higher. But now the move lower might be slowly starting here again. Now ideally, it would be ideal for this market to test the 50% short. That would be that would be something that would remove any kind of doubts in relation to participation here. If this market came up and traded the 86.07, we saw last week, we saw some selling here, and so we also have to entertain the possibility that the highs are in place here because of this double top as well. So algos or dump money were not capable of pushing this price higher. So the proof here will be given at this 85.05. If that holds, then basically this market is gonna reverse from here, and potentially it could actually continue lower. All right, so if that's not the case, we would need to wait for the 86.07 trade. Pound versus Swiss franc here. There's one level I consider the last week. Okay, so let's go back to the monthly. It's always very important to look and see what happened on the larger time frames. Here there is a 50% that came into play in March, and very quickly in it actually in 2 months brought price into that first target. So there is a possibility for this market to come back into the next measured move. Okay, we are seeing this weakness here, but it's also possible for this market to just continue higher. So the on the weekly, I also have another level that I wanted to watch, because this market was extremely more extended here, and the pace was much stronger than the pace lower here in the previous pace as well. Is it possible that this market is in an extension? So there is is it possible that this market could trade an extension? So there are several levels here. One is certainly the next measured move, which is the 50% below, but before that can be tested, we also have to look at any test and participation at this 135.97, 134.97, 135 area. Okay, so if price gets there this week, we'll need to test that level before we can even think about any kind of continuations higher here. And that level has not been tested. We might need a setup to do so, and one potential setup could be this 135.94 short, which has which has targets below and could help price into that 50% long. And finally, the pound versus New Zealand dollar here. So this market here is also seems to be positioned here for for a correction, and we have seen the pound very weak last week, sorry. And you will remember then, when we look at this sequence here, we had an extension long, and price has really moved very weak, in a very weak way here, higher, and was not capable to take the previous highs as well. So we've been seeing this weakness, and this weakness here could continue. So these are just qualitative consideration. Now let's look at the and what happened with the sequence of measured moves here. So this is the 50%. This market has not been technical at all in this move higher, and we had a busted setup here that traded, and then market went to the first target, and then we had the typical behavior of basket setup. So there is a level here that could come into play, and that's the 91.84, which is about 80 pips below here, and that's something that that could actually trade this week. The and again, this we came with this as the next 50%. However, we also have to consider all this is a big range. So in ranges, we do not anticipate 50% holding, which means that it's very reasonable for this market to come and test again the bottom of the range here, which would be much lower here at 187.14. Okay, so that's what we could anticipate in this market this week. So, and this ends this brief first part where I reviewed the 6 markets that you have suggested. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the second part where I'm going to review the majors and the futures. Thanks for watching. Bye bye now.